The rebrand. Are we always rebranding? I hope we are.
And we always rebrand.
Yeah, I liked when you said that. In a few words or less, you said it's something like you like the idea of a lot of like different tries. Just trying a lot of different things creatively.
Yeah.
And I get very focused on things. And sometimes that prohibits me from being a little more spontaneous creatively.
Like you have ADD, like not ADD, but like autism brain, like
ADHD.
ADHD brain.
Or you can really focus on one thing, and too much stimuli can prohibit the one thing from getting done.
Yeah.
So then you throw the papers up in the air.
Yeah.
But the rebrand is evolving, and I just need a little bit of insight from my girl and marketing girl to see what she thinks, and then I'm gonna pull the plug on it. I don't like that. I don't like that term.
Pull the plug on it. Isn't it be like wouldn't it be launching it?
Launching it, yeah. Not pull the plug because that's draining the time.
Yeah, that's
but essentially pulling the plug on my current podcast.
Yeah. So what's the transition?
The transition is from no focus to focus.
Yeah.
And that's probably why it's taken me so long, because focus is my core issue. Besides,
that's the core issue.
Probably a bunch of other things. The fact that you live 3 doors down and I was 40 minutes late. But you also did not have a chair.
I didn't have a chair.
So I feel like we're equal.
I feel like this looks great.
This looks fantastic, by the way. I brought your book that I had dog-eared the entirety of.
I'm excited. So this is where we're going to dual podcast this.
Yeah, it's called Swapcast.
Swapcast.
Yeah,
this is my first ever Swapcast. By the way, this is it. I'm not editing this out.
No, we're going more.
Yeah.
The Swapcast is a term from Doug Stanhope. Do you know Doug Stanhope? You would really enjoy his comedy. He's a comedian's comedian.
You must say that for a reason.
Because he's insightful and has a very specific point of view and talks about the world. Brings up hypocrisies in the world. Yeah, so, it's Swapcast.
Swapcast. We're doing the Swapcast. This is a swap.
Also, it's the first time I've ever showed up to a podcast and took my shoes off comfortably.
Is this the first time you've ever walked to a podcast?
Yeah! I would do so many more.
Just walk.
Why do you think I do so many in my garage? Because it's just right there. Who else is going to listen to me?
We're always here.
Oh, by the way, you saw this in the yard.
I think this is incredible. For those watching on video.
It's giving Weekend at Bernie's.
I thought it was giving like Pablo Picasso vibes.
Oh, we're going to go with that.
What do you think?
That's more fun, yeah. It's a walking piece of art that I got at Ross.
Yeah, I've never been to Ross.
You probably hated the moment you walked in.
Is it the same as Marshall's?
How dare you?
Is it the same thing? What's the difference between Ross and Marshall's?
Oh, a world of a difference, Douglas. What's the difference between Doug and Douglas? Everything. It's close, but it's two different vibes.
What's the vibes? How would you describe them?
Ross is like, okay, Marshall's, a mother is going to shop. She's going to bring her kids. She may or may not have a tumbler, a Yeti of wine in there. She's a working mom. She also has like maybe a business that she's started, and she's busy, and she's buying gifts for all her friends. She's considerate. She's getting it all done. One-stop shopping, bringing a kid on the hip. Yeti was filled with wine, on the other hand, getting it all done at Marshall's. Ross Dress for Less is the same thing, but the girl is like 3 divorces deep. She's got a day drinking issue for sure. On her 4th job that week. No rocket.
So it's a little lower status.
Of the upper echelon of American shopping.
TJ Maxx lay all this?
Oh man. TJ Maxx is a wild card. It's a marriage of both of the two. And then don't forget there's Home Goods.
I don't know, Home Goods.
I call it the American trilogy. It's Home Goods, TJ Maxx, and Marshall's.
Where do you lie in that today where you are in your life? Where would you show up?
Gucci.
Gucci. She's a Gucci girl.
No, I don't like wear designer. I don't like designer clothing. I think
as you're wearing a Pablo Picasso t-shirt.
How original. I really wish that would be really cool if you could put Pablo Picasso designs on the shirt. By the way, this thing does not breathe, in case you're wondering. Whatever horrific carcinogenic fabric. The child that is unborn inside of me is sweating. It's a great shopping experience. It's near and dear to my heart. Ross Dress for Less. Ross Dress for Less, I got introduced because that's more California. But TJ Maxx, Marshalls, and Home Goods, that's Americana shopping.
That's a whole world I know nothing about.
It's a whole world. Like, if someone yells mom in a Marshalls, 7 women respond. Except for mine, because she's dead. But I still yell for her there.
Where did your mom die?
She died at a Marshalls.
She died at a Marshalls.
I wish, because then I'd have a reason to go all the time. Yeah. They should put a graveyard next to a Marshalls, or in a Marshalls, like in the center for all the moms.
Do you think there's any Marshall-themed tombstones?
Oh, I mean, Marshalls has a whole tombstone section. It's just placards with phrases on them. And my mom had those all over the house. Like, you never wondered what she thought. She had it written on picture frames everywhere. Always kiss me goodnight because I'm the mom. That's why I'm just saying.
Live, laugh.
Live, laugh, love, laugh, live. Live, love, laugh. Love, live, laugh. Every variation of that.
Wait. So hold on. Let me just click for you. Have you seen those Instagram reels of, like, kids go to their parents' house and they're making fun of, like, all of their signage? Like, live, laugh, live.
Yeah, that's my
mom. This is where we gather for dinner.
Yeah. Gather.
Gather.
You don't need the rest of the sentence, Douglas. Just gather. Yeah.
Are those purchased at a Marshalls?
Flip them over and see. Because there's going to be a sticker on there that you won't recognize.
The dots are connecting.
Yeah.
The dots are connecting.
Yeah.
Where do you even buy a sign? I'm like, Walmart? I don't know.
How are you supposed to know where to gather?
Yeah.
Do you even know there's coffee in the kitchen if there isn't a sign that's handwritten?
It says coffee time.
But first coffee.
Do you have any of those at your house?
No, because I sort of purged that style and that decor that I had at my house. I don't have that decor anymore, really. I like clarity now.
You got to keep it real clean.
You have to keep it real clean, especially for a more chaotic brain or a brain that's firing differently. You have to... There's definitely an art, a feng shui art to clarity in your home.
Do you get the most inspiration for your comedy at home, or you were like, I gotta be out in the real world, or you like sit down, pen and paper, gotta focus, or you're like, I'm gonna go walk barefoot to Erewhon and see what happens and see if something can show up. So we get your inspiration from comedy.
All those things.
Yeah.
But mainly like in conversation, hanging out with people and doing things, because I'm very physical. So if something happens and then I do something and then they laugh naturally, then I try to recreate that.
We've had a lot of conversations about the back garage.
About the back garage?
By the back garage.
Oh, yeah. It almost reminds me of, did you ever watch Home Improvement?
Yes.
Wilson,
the guy you only see lights.
Yeah. So you're kind of like Wilson.
Oh, no?
Because your bike and then the...
Well, I can see straight into your garage from the kitchen.
Well, that's right. I am directly back.
So I know.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh. Yeah.
You know when the studio is open.
There's a sign.
Now I have a sign.
You have a sign. No, don't bother. When the sign's up, we don't.
Yeah, right. Because I can't, again, if I'm focused on a task and a hummingbird comes by, forget the task.
Yeah.
We're going out for the hummingbird. So now all the hummingbirds know, do not disturb. We're recording. Yeah, you're very much like the Home Improvement. Yeah, you want to peek.
Yeah, I just got to peek in and make sure everything's okay. Hey, I did make you a grilled cheese one time.
One of the greatest grilled cheese. Like, maybe not the best grilled cheese of my life, but as far as spontaneous grilled cheese ever in my life. And first grilled cheese where I just asked a neighbor friend or a friend, and it arrived like 5 minutes later. I was joking. Did I request it?
I don't think you requested it. I was home. It was like kind of like a moody day.
You were in a mood?
Well, it's just, we live in Venice. You get the cloud cover. You get the gray. That May gray is real deal.
June gloom.
May gray, June gloom.
We love it. It's our holiday.
I feel like we're kind of past it, though. Have you maybe the last couple of days?
The last couple of days, but this...
You never know.
The weather here is a little flirty bitch. Spicy.
It'll tease you.
It will tease you.
Yeah, but it was a gloomy day. I had just gotten that really good sourdough from Erewhon.
And then you told me, okay, you tell me your memory.
Yeah, and I think I said, I'm going to go make a grilled cheese. And I went in to make one. I'm like, I'm going to make one for Jess. And then I just made one, brought one for you, right? Is that how you remember it?
I hopped on your memory on that one. My memory is you in the garage, you being like, I just bought this great.
So you tell your neighbors, I bought the best bread.
By the way, that's big news in Los Angeles. No one's eating carbs.
No.
So if you've got a carb hookup,
non-gluten-free, legit, real deal bread.
Sourdough is, by the way, everyone listening, sourdough is what all breads are. They start off as
The elite.
which I was
The elitist bread.
It's the elitist bread. It's like, for all of you celiacs out there, it might be safe. I don't know. Don't quote me, please. But you're like, I got the best loaf of sourdough. And I think you said, this is my memory. You said you were going to go make a grilled cheese. And I went, oh.
You gasped.
Yeah, I think I breathed in. I breathed in everything that was left. And then you took that as a sign to go make me a grilled cheese.
I didn't make your grilled cheese.
One of the greatest
And
meals.
I think it was actually the reason this conversation in that moment was so important, because by me talking about the significance of bread, I officially crossed the line from young boy into adult. That was my coming of age. I didn't realize it until now. When you start talking about sourdough bread with your neighbors, that's your coming of age. You are no longer a child. You are now an adult.
If you no longer buy bread in plastic bags with a twist tie, and your bread comes in paper bag, and it dies in a day, if your bread doesn't die in a day, don't talk to me. You're poor. I need your bread.
You're not an adult.
You're not an adult. There are 45 ingredients. If your bread's lasting and thriving, I cannot.
I think that should be a prerequisite on a first date question for those that are dating.
Yeah, like, is your bread in a plastic bag?
Or is it in a brown bag?
Or do you, here's a question. Do you buy your bread bagged, or do you put your bread in a bag and then buy it?
Do you have to slice your own bread? There it is.
Because you can't buy that fucking loaf.
That's how you can filter out all the...
Yeah. Do you buy slice? Do you slice your own bread?
I slice your own bread.
If they say no, leave.
Get out.
Don't even be there yet. Leave. You shouldn't be there yet.
Leave immediately.
The question should happen before.
Check, please.
I think we should. I do love sourdough, though. I'm a sucker for bread. I'm a carb whore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love carbs? That's another thing. You like carbs. If they say no, then it's a lie. Then you know.
It's a lie. Everyone loves them.
Then you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like hot carbs with cheese. Like cheese.
That's what they call me in high school.
Hot carbs with cheese. I know this story. It makes a lot of sense. I can see it now.
Hot carbs
with cheese. That.
I had this like passing idea in my head to do like a happy comedy special and just do all jokes like that. Like, that's what they called me in high school. That's what she said. And we tried to like, I had a vision of really committing to it for like a 10-minute set or maybe 15-minute. And I envisioned the audience just getting how ridiculous it would be to continue on with all these horribly hacky jokes that they just got on board by the end of it.
And just have to write it out.
Yeah, just had to write it out. With all the cheese.
Were you popular in high school?
Yeah, I think so. I was friends with all the groups. I didn't have a group.
Like the lone wolf that kind of jumps.
Yeah. I had a couple, like 2 girlfriends that I always hung out with. But I liked everyone. I related to everyone in their own little space.
Did you have a beef with anyone?
Yeah. Mrs. Emborski. No, she was great. My earth science teacher did not like me. I can't remember her name. I can see her face. She didn't like me. There were a few teachers who didn't like me, and I'm sure I was a challenging student because I challenged a lot. And I required a certain level of education and a certain level of consideration because the way I learned, I'm a visual learner. If it involves math, I'm out.
Not a math girl.
I had to have my tennis coach teach me math. They gave up. They were like, give it to the tennis coach. He's like, what? I don't know math. And he did a good job. He used to tutor me after school. But I was always out in the hallway.
just couldn't sit still.
I couldn't sit still, and I needed a consistent type of stimulation that just isn't available in standard.
Were you in any extracurricular activities?
Unfortunately, my school, Hanover High School, didn't really provide a lot of those types of activities, which I think are so important. I did do a lot of sports.
Sports girl.
Yeah, soccer, basketball, lacrosse, hockey. Dylan. Yeah, these are all fake teeth. No hockey. I loved sports. I loved because it was physical and it was a group of girls, and I used to get in trouble. I was always running the perimeter. I remember this one that Mr. Kellogg and Mr. McDonald were our lacrosse coaches, and I know I put them through hell. But Mr. Kellogg had these sneakers that had apples on them. And I used to call him his Apple computer shoes. And so one time he's like doing something and showing girls some move or talking about lacrosse. And I start typing on his shoe. And then he's like, all right. And gets annoyed, but then like he's fine with it. And then we formed a circle around both of them doing stretches. And their backs were to me, and I put my lacrosse stick down my pants. And I just was doing something. And they caught me, and I had to run the perimeter of the field the entire practice. I just was, as my dad used to call me, a scorch.
What's a scorch?
Somebody who sets little fires everywhere.
Scorch, yeah.
Scorch.
Yeah, scorch.
You're a scorch.
Yeah. And is that like, as being a scorch, is that something you were like identified with as like, is that something like a badge of honor you took on, like, oh, okay, cool, I've been kind of placed in the scorch, it's kind of fun, little bit of hooligan, because a lot of times when you're growing up, at least my experience, like we get labeled as these things like, oh, she's the nice guy, or she's really pretty, or he's really popular, he's really cool, or he's the athlete.
Yeah.
And you kind of like embody that identity to get validation.
Right.
Like,
yeah,
I got to play the role. And if I play the role, then I get approval, or I get attention, or I get validation, and whatever it may be. And sometimes it's like you get punished, but in a sense, that's validation because you're getting attention, right? So was Scorch like, oh, cool, I kind of like this role that I get to play? And
I think so. I was thinking about this, and we've had so many conversations about this sort of thing. I think we're always looking for love. We're always looking for that validation and comfort from our parents. And so in whatever form we get it becomes the way we search for it, or at least, like you said, our identity. And my father always loved comedy, and he loved horror films, and those became my favorite things.
That's opposite spectrum.
Opposite.
Yeah.
But also there's a fine line between comedy and horror.
Sure.
But I think because I was just a naturally goofy kid, I remember being funny. The only thing I can really think about as far back as I can remember being is funny. And liking it. I remember entertaining my sister, and she's to this day is an easy laugh. I get her like no one else. When I come home, my brother-in-law just knows he's going to hear silent laughter in the kitchen from us because we just speak this like language. And so, yeah, it became my identity. It became the way I related. It became the way I mined love from my father and my mother, which they always gave pretty freely and openly to their ability. They both came, like everyone else's parents, with their own set of broken things and behaviors. And I'm sure a lot of that was instilled in my personality and in my identification and how I relate to people. But I think it's something I've been thinking about lately is, am I a product of an attempt to get love? Is what I do a product of that? Or is it really who I am? And I think that's just the eternal question that keeps rattling around in my mind. And there's a balance to be had, I think. I'd be interested to see what you think. Into questioning yourself so much. It's good to be introspective, and it's good to like be aware of how you occur. But I also think there needs to be a threshold to that so that you can just occur.
Yeah, there's like this line of, and I remember going through my, personal development, healing, psychedelic journey, whatever you want to call it. And you kind of
Which is all very well documented in Holy Shit, We're Alive by Douglas Cartwright.
Thank you. Yeah,
this photo has someone trying to steal this photo.
It's true.
Okay, continue.
And when you go down the personal development healing journey and you kind of realize, this awakening of like, oh my gosh, the initial thing for me was the stories you tell yourself as a kid, right? And usually those labels are put on you, like, being scorch, right? Like, okay, that's an identity that I'm going to be. For me, I was the fat kid, right? And so because of that, like, okay, because I'm the fat kid and I do want praise and approval and validation from others, because I'm not accepted physically, what are some other roles I can play? I can be the nice guy, right? I can also be an athlete, right? I can be good at athlete. I can be smart. I can win student body vice president, right? And so it's like, what other roles can I go after to in turn get validation, whether that's at home from mom and dad or from me, where I feel like a lot of pressure I was seeking was validation from my peers, classmates. I was, really kind of a competitive high school, kind of your typical American high school, big high school. And so getting, validation there was big for me at the time. And going through this healing journey in kind of my late 20s, kind of like my big psychedelic awakening, and you start to peel back and you get just a new vantage point on some of those labels you put on yourself of like, oh, I'm actually maybe I'm not the fat kid.
Right.
And, growing up Mormon, that's a big thing, right? Like the Mormon label is huge. It's part of your identity.
Hang on to that.
That's it.
Don't let go of that.
That's a big one. So all within like really quickly within a couple months span, I'm peeling back the Mormon layer, peeling back the fat kid layer, I'm peeling back the smart kid layer, I'm peeling back the nice guy label. And you kind of just start peeling back at what else is in here. And I think there's a point where you can kind of be neurotic about it.
Yeah.
Where you can't, I do believe you have like inherent characteristic traits.
I think so too.
That's who you are. Like you're naturally open and fun loving and funny and silly and you're witty and you're quick and, that's, you were just born with that.
Right.
I'm sure your sister thought that, right?
She's in a different way.
In a different way.
Yeah.
Right?
She's similar, but in very different characteristics. Yeah, much more headstrong and different areas.
So I think the way we differentiate that is like what is natural to who you are as a being without someone giving you an outside label.
Yeah.
And in my experience, I'm a coach, over 100 people right now, one-on-ones, and it's a very constant theme of just people trying to live up to the label that was put on them sometime in childhood or from mom and dad to, in turn, get validation and love. And I'm curious to know, you mentioned how much your dad loved comedy.
And
What role did that play for you to like go be a professional comic?
From as long as I can remember, as far back, comedy was a part of my life. Professional comedy was a part of my life. I remember watching comedy specials. My dad watched all the comedy specials, all the blue comedians. I mean, Eddie Murphy was on, Richard Pryor was on, Whoopi Goldberg, Paula Poundstone, Comic Relief, all of those things I watched growing up and watched my dad connect with it. And then I drew the connection and the correlation between what was funny. And so I think that's where I developed a more raw sense of humor. And my dad was friends. His best friend was a stand-up comedian. Mike Goss was this larger than life, literally, physically and spiritually, this larger than life human being. It was just a ball of fun and love. You couldn't not love this guy. And he was a professional stand-up comedian. He used to take my dad on the road with him just as a tour buddy. And, they used to go, when they'd come back, comedians go on the road Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, come back Sunday. They would have like this breakfast where they'd all meet up and hang out on Sunday at some diner. They'd meet and my dad would go. My dad was just friends with comedians. And so I would go. And I was the only girl. I was like a little girl listening to all these grown men talk about the stories. I can't recall the stories, but I know I heard them. I know they affected me. I know hearing about what they were doing and the possibility of that type of work was something I heard from a very young age.
Yeah.
And not like these guys, these local guys, Tom Anzalone and Moody McCarthy went on to make a pretty good career for himself, and Nick Mara, and these names you probably don't know. These guys didn't go and have huge careers, but they still were doing what they loved. And so I just was around it. And I think naturally, because a girl and her father, it's such a special relationship, and I was the youngest of 4 for him. And so I think it was a real opportunity for him to get it right. I always felt that about my sister and I. Not that he messed up so much, but he wasn't around as much as he wanted to be for his first 2 girls. And they were always in our life as well. But I think with me, he wanted to get it right. And I was so much like him. And I don't know if what came first, if I wanted to be so much like him, and so I gravitated towards the things he loved, or if he loved me so much that it became what it became. But he exposed me to this world that I fell in love with and I identified with. And now as an adult, I know, like you said, I'm naturally this way. It's when I try to envision myself doing something else, not that I can't, I don't know that I'd be useful in other areas where I'm not sharing joy.
Yeah.
Because it comes so naturally to me. And when I'm out in the world, like when I'm out, like before I was at an appointment, wherever I go, I naturally connect with people and find some joy and mine joy from them. Not to take, but to elicit some joy within themselves so that they're bearing that fruit and growing that fruit themselves.
You're planting it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like I'm doing some godly thing. It's just what I recognize in myself. And so my father was that way, and so was my mom. And I think it just became a career because I was always around it as a kid.
Yeah. When did you know you were good?
When I was 8.
Yeah.
That's just a number I'm throwing out. And my mom used to make me do impressions for people. I don't really remember. I used to do a preacher, like a black preacher. I used to do Jim Carrey impressions, and like anything, what is the cliche about imagery or mocking, and what is like imagery is the biggest form of flattery.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So I always, would imitation's the biggest form of flattery. Yeah. So I would always imitate my favorites, and my mom would make me put on a show. So I was putting on shows when I was young, and I'm sure within that, discovering that I was good at it, I also was getting validation.
Yeah.
And, my parents were perfect. They argued a lot, and my mom and dad separated when I was 9. My dad, I never felt an absence from him, but he wasn't living in the house after I was about 10. So there is a physical, that's not, in my mind, in my opinion, I don't think it's natural for a child to be without both parents.
Right.
So I think that part of it is natural ability, and the other part, there's also a part of me that does it for some sort of validation.
Do you have I'm curious, because one thing I admire about you is this is your profession. It's a tough industry. It is a tough industry.
Especially now.
Yeah, right. And you've made it through. This is a career. You're very successful. You've been on Rogan. You've been on Netflix. You've had to be presented on the biggest comedy stages.
I'm in your garage.
My garage, your backyard.
Listen, your house.
Yeah. Walk to.
I walked to this podcast. I was late. I brought a chair.
Marshalls. And so you've been successful in the 1% of with this really tough industry. And was there a moment, I'm curious, as your career was accelerating, where you were feeling proud or accomplished to present your level of accomplishment to your dad or to your mom? Is there a certain show where you're wow, this is a big show and my parents are going to be there or whatever? Is there this moment of feeling that satisfaction, that validation as your career progressed?
Yes. There's 2 moments on opposite ends of the spectrum. and there's still so much that I want to accomplish within this career creatively, but they always stand out to me, and I remember them often when I think, am I doing the right thing? Should I be doing this? I did this one show in a bar, in the back of a bar in upstate New York with one of my friends, John Moses, who's a comedian out of New York. And it was a room filled with my friends and family and like my dentist. Probably about 100 people. We put seats in there and put a little mock stage and crappy lights. And I remember at the end, my dad like leapt out of his seat cheering for me. And I can see it in my mind. And I think about it sometimes when I'm doubting myself or doubting what I'm doing. Having his support. He just loved what I did. And so that sticks out in my mind, where even though it's just in the back of this stupid bar, it still was a special moment. And it is ingrained in my memory. And then I have this other memory of when I was driving across from Brooklyn back to Manhattan, across, I think, the Manhattan Bridge. The BMW, yeah, it was Brooklyn, Manhattan, Williamsburg. It was the Manhattan Bridge. And I remember calling my mom because I had just gotten MTV's Girl Code. And I got, that was my first big show.
What is Girl Code?
Girl Code was a show on MTV over 10 years ago. You know, guy code exists in language. Like, oh, that's guy code. And,
right.
You know, your bro code or whatever. So Ryan Ling created this show with the same idea, of all about female experiences. Actually, it was a pretty genius idea because nothing had been like that. There was no show like that, unscripted on television. So it was just a bunch of comedians given topics like boyfriend, first dates, you know, periods. And we would go off on them. They'd have a list of questions. We would answer the questions, and then they would cut up the episodes based off of, you know, the topics. Each episode had like 4 or 5 topics. So I was unrepresented at the time, and I went in for an audition, and I didn't hear anything. And then a management team called me and said that I had gotten the show and they'd like to represent me. And it was my first big deal. It was like a whole season. I did 2 seasons on Netflix. It was the first thing I had ever gotten that was big. I had done a ton of TV before that. And I was bartending at the time when I got the show. I was still bartending in Tribeca at this place.
This was your way out.
This is my way out.
That was it.
Because I was about to go back to Syracuse. I was about to be done because I was struggling. And I'll never forget, I was still bartending at Puffy's Tavern, and people had started coming in and recognizing me. And it happened like twice, right? And Charlie Garriga, who ran the place and still is one of my nearest and dearest, him and I were so close. We were like best friends. And it happened once, and him and I kind of like looked at each other. He was like, holy shit, did that girl recognize you? I was like, yeah, I think it's from the show. And then it happened again, and we were like, oh my God. And by the 3rd time, he just looks at me. He's like,
this is it.
I think you gotta go.
Yeah, this is it.
Like, you need to, we both came to that realization, like, you need to just jump in the fucking river.
Yeah.
And so I remember calling my mom when I was going over the Manhattan Bridge once I had gotten the contract and signed it, and told her about it, and we both cried. It you know, because my whole family stayed in Syracuse for the most part. Not that it's a horrible place to stay. I find myself being like, well, damn, I need to get a house in Syracuse. The amount of homeless people that are lingering, the amount of like daywalkers we have on this street. Venice. Woo!
Waste.
Leave New York. And you come here and you're like, oh, this is like New York, but a horror film. But it felt big that I was able to leave and make a career and make something, like you said, that's so difficult work.
Yeah. And you know, I'm going to emphasize too, I'm curious, how many years did that take?
I always say 10 years of failure.
10 years.
To that point. Yeah. I had been doing stand-up for a little over 10 years in bars and running shows and barking, which is when you go outside and ask people to come into your show. I had been doing it in New York for about 10 years. Barking.
So you, like, comedians will try and pull people.
Yes. That's
like into the
dungeon. Yeah, we basically coerce Frenchmen and women, Frenchmen, from the streets of New York, a lot of Euro travelers, to come and listen to comedy.
Yeah.
You know, for a $5 ticket or whatever. $5 and interest. Hustling.
Yeah.
I used to bartend and then run a comedy show at the same bar. What? Yeah.
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 And so it's like, that means that principle, like it takes 10 years to build a career in anything.
Right.
And I'm curious, how many times do you think about quitting?
All the time.
Yeah.
Not so much now because it's evolved and I've taken the reins. And
Sure, up until that, before that point, though,
right.
before that MTV gig.
You know, I never thought about quitting. I just dug in, which would be a great title for somebody for you, by the way. I was so focused on the fun of it, and the fun of the hustle and the chase and the grind. I didn't think about quitting at all. When I first started thinking about quitting is when I got successful.
Why is that?
I think because we lose the fun because it becomes a job. And there is a way to make that work, but I think that requires a lot of discipline and balance and gratitude. And, you know, I'm a firm believer. I don't care what anyone says. I know I'm in a, like company, similar company, like-minded. I believe that the universe talks to you, and I believe that the universe sends you messages, whatever the universe means to anybody listening. Every single time I thought about quitting most of the times I thought about quitting, I was in an airport because the travel was so grueling, and I'm alone and I'm a woman and I just wanted to be home, and that part got really grueling. Almost every single time I had this thought in my head, someone would recognize me. And it got to be to the point where I would laugh when it would happen because I would just be waiting for it to happen.
That's so interesting you say that because I've gone through a situation like my workload right now is insane. I've never worked so hard as I am right now. And my company's growing, and I'm so many coaching clients. And I've got a big event I got to throw. There's just a lot of different pieces coming at me right now. And every single time this is just outing me. In the last 3 weeks where I've been like, man, I'm like dark out from this. Like, I'm getting exhausted from this job. I'll get a text out of the blue from a client like, hey man, our call was absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for everything you've done for me. Like, it changed my perspective on this. My sales are up, or my business is doing better. Like, I just want to give you some love, bro. I made a huge impact. And I'm like, I'm good to go.
Yeah.
Like, juiced up and let's keep going.
Yeah.
And so just staying in that fight and the grind, you talk about the universe talking to you. And I feel like the universe has always been talking to me.
For sure.
But it wasn't until I got, my experience
with the Akashic Records.
With the Akashic Records, whatever that. Right? Before I actually could start to see it. Like, it was always there, I just wasn't seeing it.
And sometimes do you find, even now, it's hard to see?
Yeah. It's like this, I can't remember who said this, I should give him credit, but it was a quote that I love, and I was kind of going through my deep spiritual awakening. And they said something along the lines of, all of life is a process of remembering and then forgetting. And then remembering and then forgetting. And I have these moments where I feel like I'm so in tune, I'm being guided by God and in touch. The synchronicities are crazy and things are kind of falling in my lap. And then I go into these phases where I feel like I'm just totally grinding and I'm not making any traction. I kind of feel like I've lost that and kind of getting back on that wheel. And I think that's just the process for me of just like remembering to get back on. And so I don't know if you've got something similar. You have moments where it's like magic, and then other times where it's just mundane.
Yeah, I feel like I've sort of been treading personally, creatively, and spiritually for the past 3 years. And now I feel like I'm starting to, I'm not a surfer, but now I feel like I'm starting to get up on the board. I'm not quite catching a wave, but I'm getting up on the board again. And it's so wild because there's, I don't know if you experience this, we're talking about like struggling and sort of, I guess we can call it like struggling and flowing, right? Falling and flowing.
Right.
So you're in a falling space and then you're in a flowing space. Sometimes when I'm in that flow space, I have nostalgia for the falling space.
Right.
And I think that the falling space was so much more, maybe from that perspective, it was so much more, not comfortable, but I revere it from the space of flow. And I realized how important it was. But it's so hard to realize that when you're in it.
Yeah, I've had memories too, or insights of like, I look back to, gaps in my career where it was tough and I was like scraping by. I didn't have certainty and, end up pulling myself out of it. And I remember thinking back, I'm like, oh, if I just knew that I was going to get out of that, right? If I knew where I was going to end up, I wouldn't have wasted so much time being anxious. I'd have been able to savor those moments so much more. Like there's times in life where like I kind of miss being poor.
Yes.
Like I miss being like, I don't know, I'm gonna pay rent this month. Because you get scrappy and you figure it out, and it's just a different type of way of living. And I look back in my life, like some of the happiest moments of my life were when I made a transition from my good career, did an entrepreneur thing, business failed. And I remember waking up one morning after I a very successful sales career, and I remember my bank account was overdrawn. There's like 29K was on like 5 years ago. And I'm like, what have I done?
I need more wines.
I need more wines.
That's all.
And I look back at that moment now and I'm like, oh, if I knew where I was going to be today, I would have been a little bit more present in those moments and just appreciated. I wouldn't have wasted so much damn time being so anxious.
The anxiety is...
But is the anxiety helping us get through it? I don't know. Is the anxiety the motivational factor, the little push to keep us going? Like, do we need the anxiety to get creative?
I think we do, because I feel like anxiety's conductor's fear. And fear, regardless of, in my opinion, regardless of what anyone says, is one of the most important emotions to feel. It's necessary. It's like, these things are like, no fear. I fear nothing. I don't know why I just chilled David Goggins, but... Fear is everything, and the anxiety in it sucks. But like you said, think about all the art in the world. Were those people well balanced? Not likely. Most of them had severe mental issues, demons, and classified diagnosis, and all sorts of problems. So there is something to the anxiety, but I agree with you, because I feel... Again, to be happy, scarcity is the mother of all invention. And I think back to when I had a more scarce life financially, and I was more creative, or at least dug a little deeper.
So there's like a title for you. You got two for me now. You just
dug in.
My next two.
Dug a little deeper.
The next $2.
You're welcome. It's documented. I want a percentage.
Yeah, because it's one of those things where it seems like, are you more willing to take a risk when the stakes are higher, where it's like you're in survival mode?
Right.
Like, it's for you, writing your comedy, like, you're like, okay, I'm going to actually get a little riskier here. I'm going to take a little bit, do something unique, because I kind of need this to work.
Yeah. And I'm in that space now with two big projects. There's a big risk. And I've had a hard time not pulling the plug. What did you say?
What did we say? I forgot.
No, it's not pulling the plug.
Launching
it. I had a more difficult time launching because of the fear of the possibility of it not working. Because it's a big risk.
Yeah.
And I know I need to do it more than ever. It's not that I'm stretchable. We live in Venice.
Yeah.
It's anything but comfortable.
It's not. You got to be head on a swivel.
You sure do, especially if you have the body parts I do. And so I feel like I definitely, the risk factor has sort of stalled me from launching. So in that case, I think of people's motivation to keep going when they're at the top. When risks are a little bit easier because they're supported.
Right.
And they have resources.
You can afford to fail.
You can afford to fail. God. That's such a mindset to figure out how to have in every scenario, regardless of your finances or your current state.
Yeah, I think that ties in too with like the I'm a Swiftie. I'd love to be that.
You're a Swiftie?
I'm a Swiftie.
What got you to be a Swiftie?
I went and saw her.
That's right.
I went and saw her last year.
That's right.
It's like, whoa. Because No, the reason I bring Taylor Swift into this is because I don't think I've seen anyone else than bring Taylor Swift.
That should just be the start of a clip. The reason I bring Taylor Swift into this
is that's someone, I look from my perspective, that's someone who is consistently reinvented herself.
And
again.
Harassed for
again, and again.
Yep.
And again, and then goes to the top. And she creates this epic album that's a certain type of sound, that has a certain feeling, certain mood, and then she rips it down and then does something completely different.
And that's probably why she's so successful.
Yeah, because she can continuously reinvent herself. Again, I look back at like through my life, through my book, I'm like, oh, I've kind of lived 3 different books. And I'm like,
one of them is the Book of Mormon.
One of them is the Book of Mormon. That is that's the best of the day.
I just thought of a great title for a book. The Book of Mormon.
Mormon.
Like Mormon.
Some of the probable.
Probably.
There's no way.
A Mormon woman's like reformed life as a regular whore. There's the log line.
There's that is out there. I think that is out there. That has been created. And yeah, it's just like consistently reinventing yourself. And so I think, as we talk about like, okay, we're getting stuck, kind of maybe feeling burnt out. It's like, I think the real thing to look at is like, what part of myself do I need to kill? And what do I need to reinvent myself? What skill set do I like? What do I need to become? And just consistently create more versions of ourselves over and over again. And it's like the thing that's eye-opening to me, and I'm sure people in your life too, where like, you'll see friends from high school. And they're like, that's the exact same person doing the exact same thing with the exact same
haircut,
and the exact same clothes and the exact same mindset.
Feathered bangs still? We're still doing the feathered look?
It's coming back.
I never left. Somebody
is I think, I don't know if it's not like right or wrong, but I think for, as you aspire to grow, expand your creativity and your business and your human potential, I think it's requiring of like a continuous evolution of killing a version of yourself and then recreating yourself. And in that killing yourself and recreation, it's painful.
It's very painful. That's the part that you have to sort of figure out how to tread. And it requires a huge faith in a realm that you can't control and don't understand. And you have to let go of the thing you're holding on to the most. Who you think you are, and how you think you exist in the world, and how you relate to the world. And there was something that I was inspired by. I was watching the Jean Baptiste documentary, which I highly recommend. Have you seen it?
No, Netflix?
Yes, highly recommend it. It's very moving, very emotional, and speaks to this reinvention of art. He's a musician and swept the Grammys a few years ago, and his wife is also a artist and a writer. And he's filming his ascent in his career, and his wife is struggling with horrible cancer. But he said something about art and about sort of, I'm trying to remember what the quote was. It was about like reinventing yourself. I can't remember it. Oh, maybe it'll come back to me. But the documentary was really inspiring, and he took so many risks, and he did things that were so new, and I felt really inspired by that. I felt very moved by how he approached what he does and how he does what he does.
I'm curious what, go on our book here.
But we haven't already. Where are we? Just the surface. Just the surface. It does start right. It's book 4.
What version of yourself do you feel like you need to kill off in order for you to kind of get to that next version of Jessimae?
The version that requires an audience in order to perform. It's very hard when you're used to your art is based in a live setting. It's really hard. It has been difficult to conjure up material because I've been writing a lot. It's hard to switch that. There's no one. cheering me on. And I'm also trying to do that without my two biggest supporters. My mom and my dad were like my biggest audience. So I'm navigating, migrating, a little pivoting professionally, and also attempting to do that is scary because I identify as Canadian. And that's basically what John Baptiste was saying. He was saying, no, you have to be careful how you relate to the world when you're an artist. Because if you're only identifying with the world through your art, that can be tricky. You have to have some sort of balance, and you have to be able to relate to your loved ones on that level, not through your art necessarily. Basically, sort of killing the poetic way that he articulated that. But I think as I'm migrating into this new space without an audience, I have 3 dogs that are elderly.
They're very elderly.
So elderly. No teeth. No teeth. They're all from the pound. They're useless.
The first time I saw Chaplin, I thought there was like a radioactivity spill in the back.
Rude.
Doc.
Rude.
Chaplin is special needs. Truly.
But it's been difficult to migrate away from how I have identified and how I've related to the world my entire life into this quiet space. And having to conjure up ideas from nothing. So I have required resources and help so much. I've leaned on you, I've leaned on other people. And it's hard because when you're used to doing everything yourself and you're used to that grind, and I did that for 20 years of building my own career, and now I'm in a space where I need help. It's a very vulnerable place to be. And like I said, I don't have my parents rooting me on. So I've had to really battle with my confidence creatively and my confidence personally, because I'm entering this new realm without.
It's almost like you lose a part of like instant feedback.
Exactly.
Right? When you're on stage, you know if a joke lands or it doesn't.
Right. And that still is very painful.
Yeah. And as you transition into something without kind of the support, it's like, there's a fear that I can relate to that too, where I feel like my whole life it's instant gratification.
Right.
It's like, I can do this input, and I get a result really quick, whether it's your sports or your sales. Like sales, either get the sell or you don't. Like, pretty quick feedback. And, now as you you put all this work and effort and time and planning into something, is this going to work? Is it going to land? You kind of lose your two biggest fans. It's really a lesson in patience and trust too.
And you spiral more. And the thing that you mentioned something earlier about like, personal growth and personal development and all the things that you sort of need to do to work on that. For me, the area where I learn the most about myself is when I'm alone. And I've learned a lot about myself this past year working more alone than I ever have my entire career. Let me tell you this, so we don't lose it. We're fixing the studio. I'll send you a bill. That's bring up. It being alone has really put up a mirror to who I am and how I am.
Is there anything, one of my favorite questions I like to ask my clients is what...
Did I sign up for a program?
And this is you don't have to answer it. And this is something I like to reflect on too. I actually came up in one of my calls today that I didn't reflect on that question. But it's, what are you pretending not to know about yourself? And what are you pretending not to know?
I think I'm pretending 2 things. I'm pretending to not know my weakness, and I'm pretending to not accept that I'm capable of my strengths.
Yeah. How great
I could be.
How great you actually are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because with that comes immense responsibility.
Yeah.
And a big workload.
A big workload and confidence.
Yeah.
And risk and compromise and all those sort of adult experiences that can be terrifying. And so, especially when you're shifting creatively, it's the biggest unknown. and you're leaving yourself open to a different form of scrutiny. Writing, it's comedy obviously lives in perpetuity because of videos and recording and all of that. But I feel like writing is something different. You know, I think of like writing and scripts and, you know, a chisel and things being chiseled into stone. It feels more permanent to me.
Yeah.
And it feels more like biblical.
Yeah.
When you write something.
It's there. It's cemented.
It's cemented.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? If there's a video of you can be like, yeah, but I meant.
Yeah.
Can't you see how I sort of said it this way, but I meant it another way? I feel like speaking, you can sort of get out of it.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of powerful men get out of all sorts of shit that they say.
Yeah.
And women. But the writing aspect has me feeling nervous, but I'm also really excited about it because I think I'm a really good writer.
I think you're a great writer.
Thank you.
Yeah. And it reminds me of this concept. Like I've done a lot of personal development, a lot of coaching.
A lot of
a lot of Tony Robbins, like millionaire.
Shout out to Tony. Shout out to Sage.
Love Tony.
Love you so much.
Love Tony. And there was this realization that came of like, you know, you go to these things trying to improve your life or trying to improve your writing or trying to improve your skill set, right? To, you know, in hopes of creating a better place. And in that, you can definitely get knowledge and help from mentorship and lived up before. But the biggest breakthrough for me was understanding that the biggest shortcut and silver bullet to life is swallowing that hard pill that there is no shortcut.
There's no shortcut.
Right. Staying the same is painful because you can see a better life. Relaxing, taking it easy is painful because you then have to go like going for it. And absolutely sending it, going for it is painful because it requires a lot of work.
Uh-huh.
And so there's no way of escaping pain. And for me, I really feel like I've embraced that a lot more the last couple of years. And this sounds counterintuitive, but it's actually made my life easier.
Yeah, it's like, how do you want to suffer? Because you're going to suffer. So do you want to suffer smarter? Or do you want to like wallow in it?
Yeah, do you want to suffer as you progress? Do you want to suffer as you're progressing it better and see, your work pay off and make impact? Or do you want to suffer because you're sitting at home feeling like you're advocating behind and you're not making any progress?
Right. And I've been in both of those areas of my life. There was, are you a fan of Jim Carrey?
I like Jim Carrey.
Obviously Jim Carrey.
Do you like Jim Carrey?
I love Jim Carrey.
That Jim Carrey's all time.
One of my favorites.
And I love his transition.
I was just going to talk about his transition and how he's moved into this space where he's clearly done psychedelics.
Clear. A lot of mushrooms in the woods.
A lot of mushrooms in the woods. Maybe some like incognito Coachella visits, Burning Man visits. But there's a video of him where he talks about most people are depressed because they're living a life they shouldn't be living as they shouldn't be.
Yeah, they're tired of the avatar.
The avatar. And so I think a lot of depression, not that we're talking about depression, but I think like when we're talking about art and pursuing things and suffering, a lot of that comes from living the unfulfilled life or the life that you're scared to live.
Yeah. And it ties in a quote in my book that I always have to go back to, and it says, to become who you truly are, you have to let go of who you thought you were supposed to be.
Yes.
Right. And
also how people treat you. People who know you and have known you the longest, because there is something about the relationships you have and your identity and your relation to the person through that relationship.
Being a little scorcher.
Exactly. Mm. So when you go home, you revert back to how the people in your life view you so you can relate to them.
That's always the indicator of how much you killed. Like, you think you've done a lot of healing work, you've done a lot of personal development,
go back home
for Thanksgiving.
And do you resort back?
You fall in the old patterns. Do
you fall back into the old patterns? Do you get triggered? Are you like off the handle? And yes, no.
Absolutely.
45%. But there's that uncomfortable conversation you have to have with sometimes with people in your life that know you the best. Like,
yeah,
I'm not that, and you can't talk to me that way.
That hurts.
It's so uncomfortable.
Get that feedback.
It's so uncomfortable. And it requires a lot of faith in the person and faith in a relationship.
Yeah.
But it's also very difficult to do for people who haven't been open or aware to their own occurrence in the world of life and people's lives. So then you almost need like a Google Translator. You need like some sort of like device. That's where AI might be really useful.
Yeah, this is it.
It's like, hey, I've done way too much ayahuasca and sound bowl healing. And my friend back home day drinks and has 4 children. Can someone translate what we're doing and what we want to say to one another?
I think the question, I'm thinking about how I would pose that question. I would say to someone I'd well trusted friend who's known me for a long time, I would ask, what is something you think I should know about myself?
To them? That's so weird.
That I might not see. What is something you think I should know about myself that I might not see?
This is crazy. I thought about that question in the car on the way over.
Today?
Yes.
Universe.
And I was going to ask that question to one of my closest friends. It'll come to me. But that was a literal question that I wanted to ask this specific person. I thought in my head, I want to ask this person how, like, basically, how do I occur to you that I might not know?
Mm-hmm.
How am I showing up that I might not be privy to?
What is something I should know about myself that I might not see?
Yes. That's weird.
Yeah.
That's real
That is weird. I mean, if you've ever had a sign to send out text.
Now I need to figure out what the hell it was.
I just mass text that out. Trade group.
Let's normalize mass texting personal growth questions to our chat thread.
That's the next business opportunity. And then they have anonymous feedback.
Anonymous feedback might be real essential to keeping friendship.
That's actually a good idea. Personal development text. You send out a blast text to everyone that you join. Get real honest feedback. Right? Needs to know.
That could be a good exercise with you and your groups.
Oh, that could bury some people though. Can you imagine? Would you do it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've asked this question of other people.
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing that I don't know I'm doing?
Yeah.
Tell me. Because I don't want to be unaware of myself. And I don't want to not know how I am in your experience. Because, it's really hard. Everyone thinks that there's one experience that's happening between two people.
A million experiences happening.
That's not... If something happens, it's like, a crime scene. And, that's why witnesses' accounts are excusable, because they're insane. People can't remember things.
I don't remember this morning.
I don't even know how I got here. And I brought my own shit.
Barefoot.
Yeah. Probably going to leave my flip-flops as well. But it's, people can't account for this one singular thing happening through multiple experiences.
Yeah.
It's how you experience it. So it's important to know how someone... Here's a good way to ask it. This might be a little too deep. Not that you don't get it, but as a question, how do you experience me? And what is the experience with me like?
What's it like? It's a great question.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know how...
On that, I would say too, I mean, cut you off. I think, I've been thinking a lot too of the spirituality stuff. And I actually think one thing I've been sitting on recently is, there's so much bullshit out there. And there's a fake spiritual, and there's so much noise. And I think a really quote unquote spiritual life is just being a force for good, and you're pleasant to be around.
And can I...
Yep.
And wear Picasso shirts.
And wear Picasso shirts.
That's a little extra.
Picasso shirt.
Pleasant.
/ Weekend at Bernie's that you pick up at Ross. Being a force for good, and just be pleasant to be around.
Yes.
Are you pleasant to be around? I think that's a great question to ask yourself. Are you pleasant to be around?
Right. Does a person leave you feeling charged?
Yeah. And you leave people feeling charged.
Yes.
You're talking little mind. Joy mind.
Yes, I think I charge people, and that's why I require a lot of alone time.
Yeah.
I'm definitely a powerless battery source. And that can be, you gotta be careful of that. Because you gotta plug that fucker back to when you go home.
Supercharge.
You gotta supercharge yourself.
Yeah.
So it's what are ways that you can recharge yourself?
How do you recharge?
Rest. Game home. quiet, microdosing,
3 dogs.
dogs, nature. I value sleep over everything. Sleep over everything. Always sleep over everything.
That's my too. The one foundational piece I will not sacrifice is sleep.
It just
Because when you're tired, it's the only thing you think about next day.
fight.
Just fight everyone.
Don't fucking fight anybody.
Everything. You're not creative. You're not open. You're not dropping joy bombs.
No, your heart's closed.
You're close. I think sleep is the most underrated personal development habit that they talk about much.
Yeah, there's people who are like, oh, I need 4 hours of sleep. It's like, okay. Well, just because you need less doesn't mean that me needing more makes me a couch potato.
What's your number?
It's evolved. My sweet spot is 8. 8 hours.
8.5.
Fucking show.
Oh no, it's not what I wish I was 6.5.
Yeah, actually 6.5 too.
I know people who are like 6. I'm solid. I'm like, what? Would die.
I would wake up and think I have a sickness.
Yeah.
I have an illness.
I got 7.5 last night. I'm like,
See, 7.5. Yeah, no, I need 8. Yeah. But I also really love to go to bed early. We're both 80-year-olds. You go to bed at 7 p.m. Our new time?
I was trying to convince my girlfriend last night that I could go to bed at 7:45. She was not.
Was she like, what time is it in Paris?
we compromised at 8:30 p.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, are you getting up? Are you 4 a.m. club?
I'm 4:45. I'm 4:45. I love it.
What do you do right when you wake up? It's the first thing you do.
Take a piss.
Okay. Second thing.
Cold plunge. No. I'll tell you the order.
Okay.
I'll wake up, go to the bathroom, and brush my teeth.
Thank God.
Yep. And then I make a shake. Not a shake, a drink. It's a scoop of amino acids. It's athletic greens, and then 5 milligrams of creatine. And I shake that up, drink it, and then I go straight to cold plunge. So 9 degrees. Because it's like that time, the worst part of my day, the hardest part of my day is between waking up and getting a cold plunge.
Is it the anticipation of it?
It's the anticipation. I hate the cold plunge every time. I'm so sleepy and tired.
Does it wake you right up?
And then once I get in that plunge, this is crazy. There's a moment every single day. It's kind of the weird thing I do in second tip. Everything I do, because I'll get in the plunge, I'll fully duck.
You go in full scorch.
Fully duck and I'll hold out, and then I stand for 3.5 minutes. Every morning.
Guys.
And within about the first 45 seconds, there's always this moment where it's like, whoa. And they always in my head say, good morning. Because my brain turns on. I'm awake. So I have 100% in my life, I've been cold plunging here for 3 years now. If I cold plunge in the morning, there's a 100% correlation of me going to the gym.
Wow.
Because I'm awake, I'm alert. It's 5 a.m.
Do you go to the gym right after?
I go straight to the gym. So I'll make a quick protein shake, right? And then I go straight to the gym, get my workout in, warm up, stretch, lift, cardio, sauna, hot sauna.
Here.
Rated already.
Oh, wow.
I go to,
you have a hot sauna? You still hot sauna on the road?
I very use my own sauna. I use the steam room at Equinox.
Really?
Yep. So I'll do the sauna at Equinox and then shower there. And then I'm back here, workout done, whole thing. It's, 7 a.m.
It's also strange because I was thinking my time, I guess you can call it, my sleeping chunk got shifted because of my boyfriend. He goes to bed later, wakes up.
Yeah.
He's one of those 6-hour people.
Good 6 hours.
6 hours, his brain is firing. So I've adjusted because I was getting up at 5:30, and now I'm at 7, and I'm furious.
7's yeah.
So I'm I need space.
Well, it was the other morning. I was awake back from the gym. I was making my protein shake in the backyard. I drank my protein coffee.
You saw me just wake up.
And you release the hound, the dogs.
And I'm I'm barely up. And I'm mad about it.
Well,
because so much can get... Not that it's... So many things I want to say. Let's focus. There's so much... I think I feel really good. I used to feel really good at 8 a.m. having all that done. Not that I have a cold plunge, but working out. I
have used it once. You did use it one time.
I did use it one time. I have nightmares of getting electrocuted because of your electrocution.
I get up then.
if I still find a way to electrocute it, I'm going to be in the window like, dog.
Yeah.
So there is something to just waking up with the birds.
Yeah. The birds are loud here too.
They're so catty. They're
so
fat.
loud.
What are they talking about if I may? Like, girl, just see what you want.
They start chirping around 4:40.
One time, George and I literally almost killed a mockingbird.
Yeah.
And he said that, and it was one of the funniest things. I love when people who don't do stand-up are funny. Because there was a bird in the back that was going nuts. Were you hear that?
It was crazy.
It was insane. It was going through the Rolodex, like the Autobahn bird calls of every bird ever existing. I think a pterodactyl was in one of the calls he did. But George and I were like, why is in the back? You kill him. And then we're texting and we're back. We're like throwing things into the bush, flashing lights, like putting on like burr, burr, burr on our phones. We were trying to DJ horn it out of the bush. Burr, 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 burr. We threw a few of those in it. And then it flew away and we're like, we got it. And we go back. And then George sends me a message. He's in the front. And so we go out in the front and we're throwing things into the bush. He goes, wait, we're literally trying to kill a mockingbird. One of the greatest experiences.
Those birds come out early. I can hear them right now.
But there is, with all those beautiful things that people post on Instagram, there was something about waking up with the birds. And I believe that. Like, when I usually naturally wake up just before the first bird, or maybe like a peep before that woke me up. But just when they're just like, and we keep on like, anyway, so what are you gonna do today? I don't know what I'm gonna do today. What are you gonna do? And then they get going. So
it's a real thing. I mean, it's maybe I'm getting old. This is the second rite of passage. The first was the sourdough bread, is my rite of passage becoming an adult. My second rite of passage becoming an adult is I love the morning routine, but it's like my priority number one isn't for health. Like, I'm not trying to I want to look great. I want to be healthy. And I want to be fit.
Yeah.
But I do this because of how it makes my brain feel.
Right.
Like, I just feel alert. I feel alive. I feel energetic. I feel enthusiastic. I feel more happy. I feel more intuitive. That's just, I would way rather have that, I mean, that's the main purpose.
It's hard I think it's difficult for a lot of people to get that and to get to understand the processes to be able to experience that.
Have a better life experience. I'm not going to the gym every morning at 5 a.m. and trying to get a six-pack. There's a good chance I'll never have a six-pack in my life.
I have a pasta pouch. I refuse to get picked with it. That's where I store my sourdough bread and your sourdough bread.
Yeah, actually after this, I'm going to go get grilled cheese. I'll make them for you. If you gasp. But, yeah, I think, just inspired by you.
Wait, I want to see can I see some of the things that I dog-eared?
Yeah.
Because, I still...
Oh, you took notes. Dang, girl. You got notes in the book.
Okay, let's see. Okay, so I just turned to a page.
Okay.
I've underlined things. But I also, when my rebrand happens, I'm going to have you on where specifically talk about this.
Great.
Because there's a lot of grief wrapped up in here.
There's a lot of grief.
To truly level up in life, we have to work on unpacking and dismantling our stories. And that's what we were talking about. It's all about dismantling your story.
Yeah.
And just having faith that you have a better story to tell.
Yeah, I think the story, most people I've come in contact with have a story. So here's a quote. I talked about it in the book. Dr. Carl Jung. By the way, this is my favorite quote. Until you make the unconscious conscious.
Oh, did it stop? When did it stop?
I have no idea.
You have this.
I have that.
I feel like it just stopped.
Really?
Yes.
The battery dying already?
Is it plugged in?
It's battery. Oh, there it is.
Let's see, when did we start?
I can tell you.
Is it turning on?
And I can tell you how far it went. It's on, yeah. I wonder why it stopped.
I know.
SIM cards in there, everything. See it?
And I feel like because I've been kind of keeping an eye on the light.
So it got an hour and 24 minutes in.
Okay, so I got here.
4:10.
That's 4:10?
What time's right now?
5:24. It just stopped.
Just stopped.
Okay, so
We just...
say So you, okay, let me do this.
Yeah, it must have just stopped. Yeah, okay, we're live.
So we're going to get this back.
Yep.
Okay. To truly level up in life, we have to work on unpacking and dismantling our stories. And that's what we're talking about.
So we're talking about.
We're talking about dismantling our stories so we can tell a better story.
And it reminds me of my favorite quote, Dr. Carl Jung. And he says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will guide your life and you'll call it fate. Basically, he says, until you address the stories that are running your life, I'm the torch, I'm the fat kid, I'm the funny kid, I'm the bright kid, right? That will subconsciously guide your entire experience, your relationships, your family dynamics, where you work, how you show up, and you'll just say, that's just how my life is.
And I would say a majority of people do that. Present company, probably not excluded. We have done this in our lives. A lot of people do that because they don't even know, but they think that's the easier way. They think it's the easier way to live.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot harder to sort of dig in and
think for yourself and unpack those is really hard because you have identity wrapped into it.
Right. And I wonder, if you look at the globe and all the different countries, where is that most prevalent? Where is that mindset most prevalent? Because I feel like that mindset is wrapped around a certain environment and a certain upbringing, a certain economy and society. Because I don't know that people living in an Italian countryside
are caught up in this as large.
Caught up in anything besides great fields. What do you call them?
Vineyards and mozzarella cheese.
Yeah.
And Parmesan.
Right. But it is, you constantly have to check in with your stories. Because every experience you have in life is being funneled through that. That's your filter.
Yeah, where it gets interesting is you have like kind of this main story that drives your whole life. I'm the funny kid,
right?
I'm the fat kid. And then you kind of unpack it. And you kind of replace that story with another story.
Right.
And then that kind of drives your life a little bit. And then it's unpacking that story. And so, I mean, I don't know if you can ever get to zero. Like, it's just our whole life is just all the patterning, the experiences that we've had. And when you think about the things that influence us, this is, coming from Michael Singer's work.
Loved him.
All-time favorite. And he's like, you really just are a set of programs and patterns in your experience. Think about every experience. You have memories in your head that no one else knows about. Mm-hmm. And no one else remembers. Because other people have experienced might not remember that. Or it's like,
or experienced it differently.
Yeah, you're the one of one.
Mm-hmm.
And every teacher you have, every song you've ever listened to, every crush you've ever had, every boyfriend you've ever had, every argument you've ever been in, every movie you've ever seen, every experience you've had in every classroom. So that again.
Do it out again.
Batteries might be out. You try to swap it real quick.
Yeah, try and swap it. Don't forget what you're talking about.
Yeah, because it's really good.
Every experience you've ever had, every boyfriend you've ever had, you're going to remember?
Yep.
Okay.
Got to get right to. I know
there's got to be a way to plug it in.
That's what I was thinking. I'm so batteries. Voila.
Hello. Hey, hi, ho. Hey, hi, ho. Hey. Hi, ho.
We're back again.
And we're back.
Michael Singer's work.
Yes, all the experiences.
Yep. So the experiences you have in your life, think about it from like literally everything that's happened in your life. The one time your mom got mad at you in kindergarten. to the teacher you had, to the boy you liked, the boy who didn't like you, the music you listened to, TV show you watched, your whole experience of life, your perception of the world is so incredibly unique to all other 8 billion people.
Yep.
Like you think you meet like a soulmate, oh, we think the same way. Like not even close. Because every little input adjusts and changes the story.
Right.
And the label. And then what happens is we have 8 billion people, and we have 8 completely different points of view. And then you kind of throw us on one arena of Earth. And I feel like God or the Creator was like, this will be fine.
This will go well.
This is going to go really well.
This will be fine. This is fine.
We'll have 8 billion people with completely opposite, different points of view, and everyone's absolutely insanely unique, and everyone's going to think they're right.
Everyone's right.
Everyone's right. And then just go figure it out.
This will be great.
Are we in a simulation? Is this an experiment?
Oh, I hope so.
Isn't it?
What do you hope happens when we die?
That we're reunited.
With loved ones?
Yeah, with loved ones, or maybe we can help those who are struggling. Maybe we become universal guides. That'd be nice if you could use all of your experience in your physical life and then help it through the spiritual realm for somebody else living their physical life.
Do you think there will be some level of remembrance?
Posthumously?
Like, you pass on and you go, oh, I remember what that whole experience was about. I remember choosing to come down. I don't remember, like, do you believe you had consciousness before you were Jessimae?
Yeah, I do.
Like, if you're part of the simulation, that must have been like some sort of decision to participate in the simulation.
Yes, I do think consciousness exists prior. Did it stop again?
No, I don't know why the recording stopped. That's so annoying.
This is the perils of recording.
I'm just gonna go straight to it.
Did it work?
No, it's working right now.
Okay.
I think I blew it, didn't it? Recording.
That's okay. You want to say it and stuff again?
I'm just actually gonna go straight to it of like, what do you hope happens when we die?
I hope we're reunited with our loved ones. I hope that we're able to be of some sort of service somehow and show up for people somehow. I do think that maybe the messages we get or the universal synchronicities that occur could be guidance from spirit. And most of all, I hope that I look cute when it happens.
Wearing the Picasso.
Hope I'm in a cute shirt.
Wearing the Picasso shirt.
At least I hope I have shoes on.
And I guess the question I love asking is, do you think there will be a level of remembrance? Like you remember, like
Right.
We're in a simulation. It chose to be in the simulation. I'm going to go play out the simulation. And then when it's over, it's like, oh yeah, I remember I decided to go do simulation.
Well, like you said before, we remember and then we forget. And then we remember and then we forget. So maybe there's a little bit of both.
That's deep. Do you think you will get another opportunity to be a human?
How about a horse?
Oh,
Or a spider that lives forever so I can heart
who would you want?
all my exes.
Yeah. Do you think that's a real possibility? To have like,
Become a haunt?
to have the experience of a horse or a spider or a...
I don't know how it occurs, but I know it occurs in some realm just because of the experience I had in Italy where my mom manifested. And I know I'm a Looney Tune in my own way, but I'm a very rooted person and I'm pretty practical, probably too much, a little too pragmatic sometimes. But my mother showed up for me when I was in Italy, alone in Italy. I saw her. I didn't see her straight on, but her essence was in someone.
How did it manifest?
This is the craziest thing that's ever happened to me. I was in Italy. I was on a stoop in the hotel in Sorrento, right on the main street there, reading a book called One Italian Summer, a novel about a girl whose mother dies, and she goes to a trip her and her mother planned while she was alive to take together. And so I'm reading this part of the book where the girl says, I wish I could just look over and see her face. I'm literally reading this line. And it made me take a minute because I was thinking of my own mother. And I thought to myself, I really wish I could just see her. And then I'm looking down on the street because we're about 2 stories high, and I see this woman walking. And it was her.
You just knew.
It was her.
Yeah.
And I don't need anyone to believe me. It's not for anyone else to believe. That's the other thing about people in your experience. Your experience isn't for anyone else to believe unless you did something illegal.
Yeah.
You don't need anyone else to believe in it.
Right.
And so in the moment I was just experiencing it, I wasn't searching for truth. I wasn't searching for the meaning. I wasn't asking why. It was one of the only times in my life where I was truly rooted in sobriety and in a moment in present. And I saw this woman and I watched her walk all the way down the street. She walked. It was my mom walking. My mom had the same dress. My mom had almost the same purse, same haircut, same bone structure, same
So on a physical level.
physical.
Yeah.
She walked like my mother.
Yeah.
My mother had a very distinct walk because she was a little injured. And so she had this very distinct walk. All of us do.
Yeah.
I watched her and tears were just gushing down my face. And I wasn't asking why, who, what, where, what, or when. I just was in this moment, completely connected to this woman and connected to my mother. And it was silent, but it was like the most expressive moment of my life. And there was so much in that. There was so much said in that moment. And I sort of came out of it a little bit and I got my phone. Because I was like, this has to be documented.
Yeah.
So I got like a Sasquatch photo, the Stanley video. I got one of those of my mother. And I sent it to my sister. I didn't say anything. And I just sent it to her. And she just was like, holy fuck.
She knew.
I sent it to two people who knew her the most, my sister and my stepdad. And they both were, even from afar.
Yeah.
And there's something really beautiful in that. And I'm grateful for technology, but the capturing of it diluted it.
Good.
And I had one thought in that experience that I wanted to go down to her. I gotta go down to her. And I realized if I had done that the whole experience would have been disrupted from my desire for the knowing.
Yeah.
And that's why I sort of was saying before, I think we get so caught up in the knowing of everything, knowing of ourselves, that we rob ourselves of experiencing it.
Yeah, it's that need for mystery is more important than the need for answer.
Right, and the mystery is where you learn most of the truths about yourself.
Yeah.
I think.
It's the curiosity to keep going. It's making meaning of it. It's using it to assess new potential possibilities.
It's pure magic.
Answer, it's period. Answer, period. Stop.
Right.
Whereas mystery allows you to express, create, think for yourself, push yourself into limits, and make it what it's supposed to be.
Right, and it's the magic of existence. It's the magic of the universe. It's where that's the source, I think. Whatever I experience today is the source of everything.
Yeah.
And I don't need anyone else. You tell some people this, and they rationalize themselves out of it.
Yeah.
And so often we over-rationalize things that are just meant to be experienced. You don't need the why.
Yeah.
Just be.
Let it be what it's supposed to be.
Let it be. So that was the most profound experience I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
And I don't know that gave me information about an afterlife, but it gave me information about now. And had I been on my phone, had I been lost in an anxious thought, had I not been reading, I wouldn't have been open enough to be pulled into that sort of magic.
Yeah.
And so I think in this crazy world and this crazy society, just being and being present, I do believe is a luxury, because a lot of people are struggling, and they have to struggle in order to survive on a physical level. Single moms in horrible places and living with kids, and they just have to work so hard. They don't have time to sit and be on a stoop and experience. But there is a way to sort of carve out a little space for yourself, to allow yourself to experience a little bit of magic.
So what's what we said when we were at the back, like the world is, we didn't see it. We talked about how everything is in order, but another quote that came up is it's
Nature.
Let's
do it.
the world is full of magical things patiently waiting for your senses to grow sharper.
Yes.
And it's really what it's all about. Just opening yourself up to receiving.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to be received. And that requires a little bit of time and patience and not trying to manipulate.
Yeah. That's a big one.
It's a big one.
Let it be what it's supposed to be. That way it goes for it to be.
Right. Just experience it. Have a little faith in the universe. I have to work on that myself. But that moment gave me faith that there is something magical to happen. And I think the most magical parts of our lives happen when we're silent and with ourselves. Not trying to fix anything.
Open wide. Receiving.
Yeah.
Yeah. Open wide.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, Jessica,
Douglas.
this is fun. Yeah, you right. This is 3 years in the making.
I know. But you have to stay open wide.
Yeah. Stay open. Sit in the silence.
And realize, yes, you are an asshole.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
And it might take 10 years before you get a break, so stay in the fight.
Stay in the freaking fight.
Stay in the fight.
Stay in the fight. Get some dogs. Get some hobbies.
One dog.
Or I will send Chaplin over here.
And follow your natural instincts.
Yeah, I think follow your natural instincts and trust that you have a gift. Some people's gift is scooping beans.
Yeah. Not my gift. You don't know one person who's good at it. We're just gonna end it. We're just gonna end it right here. No goodbyes.
I'm taking my chair back.
Take your chair back. She had to bring her own chair for the podcast. Yeah, we're doing a podcast. Need a chair.
When you go, first of all, it'll be late. Literally
3 minutes late.
3 doors down.
3 doors down.
Not the band. 3 doors down.
Oh no.
You not having a chair.
Yeah, we're gonna podcast. What
See,
is the
guys?
podcast?
You can tell yourself all the
Oh, chair.
excuses you want, but you can create it. This is also for my
Treat.
This is borrowed.
Bring Buddha too.
I want a real cheese.
Like one right now. Okay. Thanks, Jess.
Welcome, Doug.
Where can people find you?
Oh, Sharp Tongue Podcast probably has been evolved into another title, but you probably can still find it with that title now. Also, hopefully my book will be out when this is done and my movie will be in production. And Jessimae.com. If any way you support me, a portion of that goes towards Alzheimer's Association and Hilarity for Charity. Buy merch, buy a show ticket. You're also contributing.
At the dog.
Let London lick your knee. She gotta go pee-pee.
She's got a pee.
She's like, where's my mommy? I need to poop.
All right, Jess. Thank you. I love you.
Love you.